Have you been searching for a way to feel more centered, more in control, and more aligned with your true self, no matter what life throws your way? If you said yes, this episode on self mastery will help you understand yourself on a much deeper level, get your emotions working with you and for you, and build the resilience that keeps you grounded. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Welcome to Intuitive Mind Lab Radio, where science meets spirituality and unravels the mysteries of the mind and the universe. I'm your host, Lindsay Goodwin, a self-mastery mentor, born intuitive medium, and licensed health provider with a knack for blending neuroscience with a touch of the cosmic. This radio show skips the small talk and dives straight into the big, impactful energies. You're in the right place if you're a growth-minded, science-loving, wellness enthusiast, or a spiritual seeker ready to kick limiting beliefs to the curb. I've got you covered, from self-mastery tips to deep dives into manifestation and the esoteric. Buckle up because we're about to upgrade your mind and master your life. Welcome back to Intuitive Mind Lab Radio, where we explore the tools, insights, and practices that help you step into your most aligned, powerful self. And I'm your host, Lindsay Goodwin. And today we are talking about self-mastery, which I believe is so foundational for living with clarity and purpose. It's all about understanding yourself deeply, having your emotions and thoughts work for you instead of against you, and showing up in life with resilience and focus. First, we are going to be discussing the self-mastery and why this is so essential. I'm going to share some practical tools for regulating your emotions, calming that central nervous system, and even tapping into your intuition to guide the decision-making process. We also are going to discuss small but powerful steps you can take to incorporate self-mastery into your daily life. And this episode is going to be featuring actionable insights to truly help you grow. Of course, we'll keep it intentional, reflective, and empowering. And if you've ever asked yourself the question, how can I become the best version of myself? Or how do I stay centered in chaos? Well, this one's for you. First, I want to start off with you're probably asking, what the heck is self-mastery and why does it matter? Well, we're going to go into it. And at its core, self mastery is about taking control of your internal world to thrive in the external world. Remembering that whatever you're focusing on internally is mirroring out to the external world. Self mastery was originally developed by its process of learning to manage your thoughts, emotions, and choices with intention, instead of simply reacting to the world around you and those triggers. However, achieving self mastery doesn't mean you're perfect or that your emotions always need to feel balanced. Let's get one thing straight here. We're still having a human experience. You're going to have your moments, and it's accepting and knowing that. I'm going to get more into the science of this, but one thing that's important to note here is that we're taught to live a very different experience than what truly is important. And I think anyone listening to this podcast, if you're interested in self-mastery and the other topics that I discuss, you know that there's so much more to this experience than just living in the ego mind or living in your logical mind or continuing to live through patterns. So, over time of developing these wonderful tools of awareness through self mastery, you're able to handle these challenges more gracefully and consistently. And now, why is this so important? Because when you master yourself, you gain clarity. You gain the clarity not just about who you are, but about what you truly want. It becomes easier to achieve your goals, adapt to the changes, and connect more authentically with others. It's important to note that often people don't even know what they truly want. It's so crazy to think that that is the scenario, but unfortunately it is. So you have to get laser focused about what you truly want. And if you truly want more peace in your life, then it's figuring out within your own internal energy. And most of the time, this is in the unconscious mind of what is keeping me from peace. What am I doing to self sabotage? And that could be continuing to feel comfortable being around people and situations that don't give you peace because maybe that's what you're used to. So it's really peeling back those layers and healing from these patterns. And they're self taught. Well, I can't say just self taught, it's more of they're generationally taught. So, if we think of self mastery as the foundation that really allows you to build a life you really want instead of just going through the motions, actually thriving rather than just existing, being in control of your own energy. And here's the truth: we learn to master ourselves by stepping aside from the barriers we often create. It's a process of peeling back those layers, like I stated, of what we truly want and don't want, as well as uncovering our true essence and stepping fully into our potential. This conversation is meant to guide you along this path of shedding the light on challenges we face and offering insights to help you grow in whatever areas of life you're focusing on. Remembering this is not only a transformational journey, but within the transformation is all this amazing self-discovery about who you truly are. I call it the scavenger hunt. Life essentially is like a scavenger hunt. You're finding the clues of what you are, who you've always been, and this infinite light that lies within you and has always been there, and it's not outside of you, and how you're connected to the divine of everything and all that is. So, before we get started, I want to share 3 key secrets to self mastery, and there are several of them. But I want to share 3 of them that I felt intuitively compelled to share with you today. Number 1 is accept your resistance. Accepting your resistance to positive change is a crucial first step towards self mastery. It's natural to feel frustrated or even disappointed when we realize that we're the ones standing in our own way. However, dwelling on shame or guilt only stalls our progress, as these emotions often reinforce the habits we're trying to break. And instead, what we want to do is we want to practice self acceptance and self compassion. We want to acknowledge that the resistance is there without judgment or criticism. We want to understand that negotiating with our resistance can create growth space and maintain momentum on the transformational journey. Now, why is this so powerful? Because in the moments of transformation is when you truly grow. It's when choosing something different is when you truly grow. So, what this truly means is that when we accept without resistance, we accept where we are and accept that this feeling or emotion is here. And it's here for a very valid reason, but we are going to choose a different path this time. Now, this is where self mastery comes in, and this is also where you begin to rewire your brain through neuroplasticity of choosing a different path. So, this is where we're really breaking those patterns. And when people talk about generational patterns, you'll hear me talk a lot about that, as well as the subconscious mind, limiting beliefs, energy blocks. This is what all of this is about. Is in the moment, the universe is going to give you opportunities to be able to do the work. And sometimes doing that work can be very painful. In fact, I would probably say most of the time, I can't think of anyone that hasn't experienced emotionally painful awakening, as well as there's physical sensations that you can get in that. You lose a lot of relationships. There's things that walk away. People lose their jobs. They lose all kinds of things, but you're gaining so much because you're gaining yourself. And so the universe is bringing things to us for us. And we can't judge ourselves as we're moving through that. We have to move through it. You can't go around it. You have to move through it. So, number 2 is expect to revert back to old patterns throughout the transformation to self mastery. And I put this one in there because this is probably the most common question that I get from clients over the years is, Lindsay, why is it that I've done all this work and now I'm just having this really crappy day? And I feel as though I'm where I was 6 months ago or a year ago. Well, it's because of a lot of things and astrology and the way that energy lines up in the universe and your unique personal astrology. And there's a lot of things that happen that shift and change the energy that bring things out of us to be able to clear patterns. So there's that. But also remembering, like I'd stated before, the universe is bringing things to us to give us the opportunity to finally clear things. It's similar to, say, you clean your house and you have a dog. I have a wonderful, beautiful pug, and he sheds like crazy. And I could clean my house everywhere. And it looks great, and I think we're done. And then I find a bunch of hair. That's how you can think of your energy is that you think you've got everything all clean and then poof, wow, there shows a spot where we still have some cleaning to do. And that's what happens in your energy is that things will come back around because there's residual energy there that still needs to be cleared. So remembering that when you're having these moments when you feel that old patterns are coming back when you thought you were done with them. Just trust it. Allow yourself to feel it and allow yourself to be able to move through it, and it will go away. So here we are again practicing self-kindness, self-acceptance, and self-compassion. These qualities support your progress while harsh self-criticism only serves to hold you back. You can move forward with greater strength and clarity by meeting yourself with patience and understanding. And number 3, be honest with yourself. Take accurate self-assessment is very essential for anyone on this path of growth and self-mastery. Our egos often invest significant energy in self-deception, creating illusions for others and ourselves. This self-deception becomes a barrier to internal progress. And I have to say that it happens so often in our manifestation process that we start putting lack all over the manifestation before the universe actually even gives us the opportunity to be able to manifest it into our physical reality. So this would be an example of this, of illusions of telling yourself something that you don't even have any proof of. Where do you have your proof from? And that's actually an NLP technique, which NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming, which is the understanding of how our brains subconsciously are working and through things like body language. Ask ourselves the question, why do you believe that? Why do you think that way? Where is that stemming from? What proof do you have? You start asking yourself these questions. And what happens is you start to realize that, gosh, I've been on this path of thinking a certain way that doesn't even make any sense to me. It logically does not make sense. Where do I have my proof? That's often a question that I will have clients run through because so many times we think our proof is from our past. But why are we continuing to live in the past? We just keep recreating the past. We don't want to do that. At least people like yourself don't, because you're on the path of a growth mindset, of self-mastery, and regulating your central nervous system. learning how to be in control of your energy. Self-deception can become such a barrier to this internal progress, and it's essential to recognize these tendencies that go toward the ego inflation, where we see ourselves as greater than we are. One example, and ego inflation. I want to note here, though, it's important to think about that there's a difference between ego inflation and someone that is living as if it's already happened in that delusional sort of energy. There's a huge difference between that. Ego inflation is someone that, for example, might feel that they don't need, this is also part of self-mastery, that they don't need to learn anymore, that they're the expert and don't need to learn anything else. Well, guess what? I have news for you. I don't care if you're an expert or not. If you are, that's wonderful. And I empower people all the time to take ownership of what they're good at and call themselves experts. But if you're ever on the mindset that you've learned everything about something and that there's no more room for growth, that's coming from the ego, because we always are growing. You might feel that you're done with something and you don't have an interest in it anymore, but it doesn't mean that you know everything about it. So that would be an example of ego inflation, where that's why I'm not a fan of the guru, because I feel the guru is sending the message that they know everything. I'm not saying that every guru out there has that sort of ego inflation, but I've met quite a few, and many of them have been in the spiritual community that feel that they know everything. I have seen this a lot with a lot of psychics. I'm also psychic, but I prefer intuitive medium, just because I don't believe that anyone really has the ability to tell you your future. You create your own reality. Can someone be able to give you a snapshot of where you're headed? Absolutely. And there are lots of very powerful healers out there who are able to do that, including myself. But I never take it to the level that I can tell people their future as like a fortune teller. I'm not a fan of that. I'm about helping you to understand how to get to the next place of your journey and where you want to go. And sometimes people don't even know because they have things in the way of really knowing who they truly are. And that's what self-mastery is. So when we see ourselves as greater than we truly are, back to that ego, or we could go the other way of the ego deflation. I would say that's probably more of the population, is that people really feel that they're not good enough. They devalue themselves. But both of these extremes really are distorting reality, and they can really limit your potential. So we have to be careful here. Always wanting you to know that you can be the best. You are the best. This is also part of self-mastery. So this is a really great place to start by tuning into your true attitudes and emotions. And another helpful practice is keeping a private journal where you can explore your fears, insecurities, dreams, and hopes without judging yourself. And by this, you can pay attention to how your body is reacting to these triggers as they arise, as well as the feelings of abundance and the higher vibrational frequencies of enlightenment and happiness and joy. So taking note of all of this helps you to really understand how energies are ingrained and where these patterns of focus are originating from. Remembering that everything's about awareness and focus. Focus is a very important word here. This safe space allows you to confront and fully understand yourself, to build a foundation of authenticity and clarity for lasting growth. So now that we've set the stage, I'm excited to get you moving into your own self-mastery. Let's start with some practical self-awareness strategies. And if you're looking to master your life, again, like I stated, it starts with self-awareness. And here, I want you to ask yourself right now these questions. And if you need to stop and pause and write them down or save this episode for later, absolutely take the time to do that. So, first question is, what are your biggest triggers during the day? Second question is, what patterns in your day make you feel stuck or reactive? And the third question kind of has a couple of questions. When do you feel safe? Because a huge part of self mastery is safety. And I'm going to get into that in a second because I have a different perspective on it. How does this impact my daily activities? And the third part of this question is, do I know what it means to feel safe? Or do I even know what that even means? So please write those down. And then I want you to start thinking about your answers. And you can do that later. Maybe you write them down and then you think about them for a few days or a week, and then you come back to it. Watch and see the self-awareness that you're going to start building. The idea here isn't to judge yourself, but to observe yourself. When we start noticing our behaviors and thought patterns, that's the moment when the growth begins. We have to stop ourselves, and I'm going to be giving you some actionable tips here in a few moments to stop ourselves to understand and have awareness. And maybe we don't always understand things, which is okay, but you have to have awareness about things when they come in. And then this is a bit of a different conversation, but you're collapsing timelines all at the same time, which means that you're moving to a totally different version of yourself in that moment because remembering everything is all happening at the same moment. There is no difference in any of them. It's just in the past, present, and future. It all is dependent on what path you want to take within your own consciousness. So I encourage my clients to jot down some awareness prompts, which you can do as well, to revisit during their days. So you could use the questions like we just talked about, as well as other things that might come up. So for instance, you could write down, what's the story I'm continuing to tell myself about this moment? Something that triggers you and comes up. Or am I reacting out of fear? Or am I responding from alignment? Very powerful to ask yourself. So now we're going to go into some techniques for regulating your nervous system. And these are some of my favorite topics in self-mastery. I'm all about regulating your central nervous system as well as learning about patterning and subconscious mind behaviors. This will be a lot of fun to have this conversation and share with you some insights. Part of self-mastery is the idea of safety. I mentioned this a second ago. And my theory is that we have two types of safety. This is part of self-mastery. The first part of safety we associate with safety, I say that like 4 times, is connecting to what is normal and comfortable. And this is in quotes, normal and comfortable, okay, to us. And then there's true safety of surrendering and trusting in the unknown, which can be uncomfortable to most people as we are so used to trying to keep ourselves safe, in quotes. From the next fire to put out, this is why I'm saying quotes, the disappointment from past experiences, remembering it's that wiring that we have in the subconscious mind. And also, this is an interesting one, not having enough energy. This kind of goes into imposter syndrome, not having enough energy to take the path of being in a more aligned version of ourselves. So for those that don't know imposter syndrome, what that essentially means is that it goes back to the self-worth of that believing that you're not an expert. What in the heck do I have to offer? No one wants to listen to me. That would be examples of imposter syndrome. I was the queen of imposter syndrome at one time in my experience because of different patterns that I had in my experience. And in my family ancestral line, I'm the trauma breaker. I'm the one that is here breaking the ancestral trauma. There is a huge difference between our intuition and instincts. I was listening to Carolyn Mace talk about this yesterday. She's great, medical intuitive. I'm sure if you listen to this podcast, probably many of you know exactly who she is. Wonderful. Intuition is that inner knowing. You can tell the difference between the two. That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit here. Intuition is that inner knowing about the higher self of the infinite creator that is connected to divine source that's already within you of all that is. An instinct is something that's totally different. It's the reptilian lower brain of the survival pattern of the human, as which essentially is more of the animal characteristics. And I gotta say, most of the population lives in the instinct mode and not the intuition of the higher mind and the spiritual mind. And the reason for this is patterning. And it's understandable because society puts the fear-based energies of survival right in front of our faces to keep us from listening to our intuition that is connected to the higher mind and also the spiritual mind, as I stated. But we get to choose different. We get to choose a higher path. If we want change for ourselves, we can't expect change if we're not willing to take a different path. Just like Einstein said that the meaning of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We have to take a different path to get the different results that we're looking for. You cannot keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's just like if you're working out, if you continue to do the same exact weight routine every single day, your body is going to start to get used to that and not progress into the goal of probably what you have for yourself. Same thing with diet. That's why many, and I'm not a huge fan of diets, but I am a huge fan of healthy eating and low inflammatory foods and not consuming seed oils as much as possible without getting into nutrition in this episode because that's not what we're talking about. But your body is all about consistency, but it also likes change. Just like your mind, remembering that your mind is a tool, it is a machine. And when we are constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's like you're in a factory. You're just making the same part over or product or whatever it is over and over and over again. And it just becomes like you feel like you're insane. You feel like you're just existing. Definitely not a fun path. We have to make a change if we expect to have different results. So now we're going to venture back to self-mastery. As I digress a little bit, you might wonder, Lindsay, why is the nervous system so important? In many ways, your nervous system is the command center for how you experience life. We're more likely to act out of fear and stress when we're overstimulated in that fight or flight response. And when we feel balanced, we can operate from clarity, calm, and presence. But the good news is there are plenty of practical techniques for regulating your central nervous system, and I'm going to guide you through 3 powerful ones today, right now. Technique 1 is going to be grounding yourself in the present moment. Grounding is an incredible tool when you're feeling overwhelmed. One of the simplest methods is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, which connects you to your senses. So it's bringing you back to the room, out of your ego mind, out of the repetitive thoughts, bringing you back to the room, allowing yourself to know that everything is okay, all is well. We name 5 things that you can see around you. Then you want to touch 4 things, listen to 3 distinct sounds, acknowledge 2 scents or smells, and identify 1 taste of it could be coffee or tea or your favorite food. Go get a snack. And you almost always are going to feel centered within just a few minutes of after doing this. So this might be a great tool to do when you're feeling anxious, as well as anchoring, which is an NLP technique. If you're interested in that, definitely look that up. It's one of my favorite techniques, especially when we're working with someone that has a lot of anxiety or stage fright. And technique 2 is paced breathing. And I use this every morning, especially when I'm feeling that sort of hectic energy. And paced breathing really resets your body's stress response and sends a message to your brain that you're safe. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds, and pause before starting again. You're going to try this for 2 to 3 minutes. And you're going to notice that your heart rate is slowing down and your mind is calming. And technique 3, one of my favorites, is co-regulation. And this is where your nervous system is so intelligent that it naturally responds to the people around you. Co-regulation happens when you intentionally connect with someone like a friend or your favorite pet, like my pug Harley, who has a calming energy. Animals are such a great way to put us in a calming energy. I really, truly believe that that is part of their purpose here on this earth. This could be, like I stated, calling a friend or even being around your pets, because their energy can help your system find balance. So now moving on to tapping into your intuition for better decision making. Huge part of self-mastery is listening to your own internal voice. So here's the one thing that I've learned about self-mastery on my own path is that your gut instinct is often your best guide. Intuition sometimes feels mysterious, foreign, unknown, scary, but I promise you, it's like a muscle. The more that you practice trusting yourself and your intuition, the clearer and stronger that it's going to get, and the more that you are going to just naturally embody it, trusting it. And if you're unsure how to develop your intuition, you can start very small. When you're faced with choices, pause and ask yourself, what feels aligned? Remembering that your intuition isn't about logic, and you can connect with a more profound sense of self, the part that knows what's best for you beyond fear or ego. But the question is, how do you make self-mastery stick as part of your everyday life? Here are just 3 actionable steps to get started for maybe tomorrow morning for you. And also, please save this episode so that you can come back to it and listen to it again for some of these techniques that you can integrate into your daily life. So we'll start with the daily check-in practice. This takes about 3 minutes each morning to ask yourself, how am I feeling? What's my intention for the day? You're going to commit to 1 mindful action per day. Whether it's breathing exercises or grounding, choose one and stick with it. And then the third is, I always want you to celebrate small wins and big wins. And if you practice even one self-mastery tool today, celebrate it. Progress over perfection always. Cannot state that enough. Self-mastery is a lifelong practice, but every small step makes a huge difference. Whether you're grounding yourself, checking in on how you feel, or learning to trust your intuition more, you are creating a meaningful shift in your life. If this resonates with you, I absolutely always love hearing your thoughts. Share your favorite actionable takeaways or leave us a review. And thank you for your support and tuning in. And until next time, I'm Lindsay Goodwin, reminding you to honor the process, your process. Stay aligned, curious, and open to all the infinite possibilities already within you. And that's a wrap for this episode on Intuitive Mind Lab Radio. If this episode sparked your curiosity or lit a fire in your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your Cosmo-loving bestie, and hey, If you're feeling the vibes, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. Until next time, remember this: it's your universe and you hold the power to master it. I'll see you next time in a mind-expanding, intuitive Mind Lab radio episode. Stay curious, bold, and always true to your authentic self. Much love always.